Cry Primal, available February 23rd.
Hey guys, I'm Lucy and welcome to a Stone Age episode of In 2 Minutes. Now, as you can tell by the sponsorship bumper, this episode is brought to you by Far Cry Primal, which got me thinking, how can a Far Cry game be a Far Cry game if it doesn't have any of the Far Cry staples like guns, or vehicles, or wingsuits, or yes, even lasers? But then again, I suppose you don't really need all this technology gumph to clobber the absolute hell out of some bad guys, huh? Let's find out. So I suppose the main thing they didn't have back in the Stone Age was vehicles. Previous Far Cries have let us traverse an array of tropical locales via various means, from boats and jeeps to wingsuits and mini choppers. There's always been a lot of ways to get around. In Primal though, locomotion is distinctly more low-tech. You either walk or hitch a ride on the back of a gallivanting great mammoth. And while I'll miss the local tinny radio station, I do enjoy goring people to death with my tusky ride. Okay, 1 point to Stone Age. Second biggest thing is that there's no guns, grenades, or any other kind of man-made explosives. So that Far Cry mainstay, the bow and arrow, are probably gonna be your best friend in Primal. Hitting enemies with a well-flung spear may not be as satisfying as, say, blowing everyone up with a rocket launcher, but clubbing someone to death from above will never get old. And I guess if it does, you can always get your pet owl to drop a load of bloody bees on top of everyone. Speaking of Hedwig, as I've called her, she also helps to compensate for the lack of binoculars. Tagging enemies with your bizarrely high-spec binoculars is usually the best way of keeping track of people in Far Cry. But seeing as glasses as we know them weren't invented until the ancient Romans, we have to resort to our old owl buddy to give everyone on the battlefield an ocular pat-down. One thing we take for granted with video games is that they're usually in the language that you speak. While Stone Age Man definitely didn't sound like Captain Caveman or say things like, "Me man, fire bad," he probably didn't speak the Queen's English either. Seeing as we don't really know the language that was spoken all those tens of thousands of years ago, Ubisoft's developers got some language experts to make a very educated guess. So, subtitles then. And finally, there's no co-op in Far Cry Primal, so while you may be lamenting the fact that you can't have your buddies drop in and help you out at a moment's notice, you do, however, have a vast array of big-toothed animals at your beck and call to come to your side to maul, well, anybody you tell them to. And admittedly, they do make taming animals look a lot easier and safer than it actually is. Don't try this the next time you go to the zoo. So there we are, how Far Cry Primal can still be a Far Cry game, despite having none of the Far Cry technology that we come to expect. For more on Far Cry Primal, make sure you check out the gist this week where Jess talks about the 5 coolest things you can do in the game, and my episode of Reality Check on Friday, where I take a look at the technology of Stone Age Man. Thanks for watching this week's episode of In 2 Minutes. Don't forget you can find me on Twitter at LucyJamesGames, and I'll see you next time.